John sat nervously across from Mr. Hemsley, the interstellar lawyer handling Grix's affairs. The office was lined with holographic screens displaying cosmic legal codes and star system maps, creating an atmosphere as alien as the subject at hand. "John, thanks for coming on such short notice," Mr. Hemsley began, his voice a comforting baritone. "I understand this might be overwhelming." John nodded, his mind racing. "It's not every day your best friend tells you he's leaving you his entire estate. I'm still trying to process it, especially with Grix being so far away." Mr. Hemsley flicked his wrist, and a hologram of Grix appeared above the table. The image flickered into a smile. "John, my friend," Grix's voice came through, distorted but warm. "I wish I could be there in person. You've been more than a friend to me. You've been my brother in arms in the realms of commerce and adventure." John chuckled. "And you've been the only one crazy enough to join me on those wild trade routes through the asteroid clusters." He turned to the hologram, feeling a mix of joy and sorrow. "How are you holding up, Grix?" The hologram sighed, a programmed gesture of Grix's fatigue. "My time is short, John. The doctors here are excellent, but some things can't be cured. That's why I've made this decision. Leaving me everything, including—" John trailed off, unsure how to address the more sensitive part of the inheritance. "Yes, including Mira and Laya," Grix confirmed. "They are dear to me, but I trust you to care for them as I have. You understand their worth, not as property, but as individuals." John felt the weight of the responsibility settling on his shoulders. "I'll do my best, Grix. They'll be safe with me. That's all I ask." The hologram smiled again. "Mr. Hemsley will provide you with the details of the transition. I've already transferred the estate's keys and codes to your name." Mr. Hemsley interjected, "The estate on Zelan V is quite expansive. It includes several trading posts, a research facility, and the residential compound where Mira and Laya reside. You will find the environment most intriguing, John." "Sounds like I have a lot to learn," John replied, his curiosity piqued despite the somber circumstances. "Indeed, you do," Grix added. "But I know you, John. Your quick wit and open heart will serve you well. I've instructed Mira and Laya about the transition, and they are prepared to welcome you. I look forward to meeting them in person." John turned back to Mr. Hemsley. "When do I leave for Zelan V?" "As soon as you're ready," the lawyer replied. "There's a transport ship leaving Earth for the outer colonies in 3 days. It would be prudent to be on it. I'll make the necessary arrangements." John nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and daunting responsibility. "Thank you, Mr. Hemsley. And thank you, Grix, for trusting me with this, with everything." The hologram of Grix flickered once more. "Thank you, John. I know my affairs are in capable hands. Farewell, my friend." As the hologram faded away, John sat back, his mind abuzz with the reality of his new life. Mr. Hemsley handed him a data pad filled with legal documents and estate details. "Review these at your leisure, John, and do not hesitate to contact me if you need assistance." With a firm handshake, John stood, a determined look on his face. Next stop, Zelan V. He left the office with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in a long time, ready to face the new challenges and opportunities that awaited him among the stars. John's transport approached Zelan V, a planet glistening with the colors of an alien sunset. As the ship descended through the atmosphere, the view from the porthole shifted from cosmic black to the lush landscapes of his new home. The pilot, a burly man named Captain Harkins, glanced over his shoulder at John. "First time to Zelan V, Mr. Johns?" "Yes, it's all quite new to me," John admitted, his eyes fixed on the scenery. "You're gonna like it here. The locals are friendly enough, and the tech is top-notch. Ever flown a hoverbike?" John laughed. "Can't say I have." "Well, you're in for a treat then," Captain Harkins grinned, turning back to his controls. "We'll be landing shortly. I'll introduce you to your welcoming committee." As they touched down on a sleek, metallic landing pad, John saw 2 figures waiting. As he disembarked, they approached him with cautious smiles. They were humanoid, their skin carrying a slight iridescence. "John? I'm Mira, and this is Laya." The taller one with a gentle voice introduced herself and her companion. "Pleased to meet you both." John extended his hand, which they took in a firm, warm shake. We were very close to Grix. He spoke highly of you, Laya said, her eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and sadness. I was lucky to know him, John replied, feeling the weight of their gaze. He left me a great deal to take care of, and I'm hoping to live up to his trust. Mira smiled slightly. We'll help you settle in. There's much to manage, and you'll find the estate quite expansive. Captain Harkins clapped John on the back. I'll leave you in good hands. If you need anything, Mira and Laya know how to reach me. Thank you, Captain, John said, then turned to his new companions. Shall we? Mira led the way to a small, sleek vehicle that hovered a few inches off the ground. This will take us to the estate. It's a bit of a ride, so you'll get a good look at your new surroundings. As the vehicle glided over verdant fields and through towering crystalline structures, John was captivated. It's beautiful here. It's peaceful, certainly, Laya agreed. The estate itself is a hub of activity, though. You'll meet the staff and the researchers tomorrow. They're eager to meet you. Researchers? John queried. Yes, Mira explained. Grix invested a lot in local science and innovation projects. There's ongoing research into the native flora and fauna, as well as some off-world technologies. I'm no scientist, John admitted, but I'm keen to learn and see how I can contribute. You'll do fine, Laya reassured him. Grix wouldn't have chosen you if he wasn't sure. The vehicle soon approached a large, elegantly designed compound that blended natural elements with advanced technology. The setting sun cast a warm glow over its surfaces, welcoming John to his new home. We're here, Mira announced as the vehicle slowed to a stop. This will be your home now. They disembarked, and John took in the sprawling estate. It was more magnificent than he had imagined, a perfect blend of nature and technology. Let's show you around, Laya suggested. There's much to cover before dinner. As they walked, John felt a stirring of excitement. This was the start of a new chapter in his life, and with Mira and Laya by his side, he felt ready to take on the responsibilities Grix had left him. The planet, with all its alien beauty, seemed less daunting and more like a canvas, ready for new stories to be painted. The morning light filtered through the high windows of the estate, casting patterns on the smooth stone floor. John sipped his morning brew, a local concoction Mira had introduced him to, while overlooking the gardens where exotic, colorful birds flitted. Mira joined him at the large table, her movements graceful and quiet. Did you sleep well? Better than I have in weeks, John admitted, smiling. There's something about this place. It has a calm about it, Mira nodded. Today, we thought to introduce you to the estate's operations. There's a lot to oversee. Lead the way, John replied, eager to learn. As they toured, Laya explained the workings of each section. They started with the agricultural domes, lush with vegetation that was both native and hybrid varieties developed on Zelan V. This dome supports the entire estate and the local community, Laya pointed out. Grix was proud of this project. John touched the leaves of a plant, its surface smooth and slightly warm. He left an impressive legacy. In the research wing, a group of scientists, both human and alien, greeted them warmly. Dr. Fawn, a human man with a keen eye and sharp intellect, stepped forward. John, we've heard much about you. We're excited to show you what we're working on, Dr. Fawn said, his enthusiasm infectious. They moved through labs where technologies and biological studies intermingled. Screens showed DNA helixes and botanical structures, while other areas buzzed with mechanical and digital activity. What's this area for? John asked, gesturing to a room filled with holographic maps. Ecological monitoring, Dr. Finn explained. We track environmental changes and plan reforestation efforts. It's crucial for maintaining the planet's biodiversity. Grix mentioned your efforts briefly, John recalled. I'd like to understand more, be more involved if that's possible. That's wonderful to hear, Dr. Finn smiled. Your interest can drive more support for these projects. Maybe even expand them. As the tour continued, John felt a growing respect for the complexity and ambition of the estate's operations. He was particularly struck by the integration of alien and human technologies, creating solutions that neither could achieve alone. In the late afternoon, They visited the engineering bay where robotic and vehicular maintenance was carried out. Here, John met Kale, a robust and cheerful engineer who had worked closely with Grix. "John, heard you're the new boss," Kale boomed, wiping his hands on a cloth. "Hope you don't mind getting a bit of grease on those hands of yours." "Not at all," John chuckled. "I might need a few lessons, though." "Any time," Kale assured him, clapping him on the shoulder. "Let's start with the hover bikes. Bet you've never ridden one of these." John followed Kale to a sleek, silver machine that hovered silently a few inches off the ground. With some basic instructions, he soon found himself gliding around the estate, the thrill of speed and smooth motion igniting a joy he hadn't felt in a long time. As the sun set, they returned to the main house, where a communal meal was prepared. The staff and some of the researchers joined, creating a warm, festive atmosphere. Mira and Laya sat beside him, sharing tales of Grix and the early days of the estate. John listened, shared his own stories of Earth, and realized how much he had already bonded with them in this remarkable place. Later, sitting back under the starlit sky, John felt a contentment that was new and profound. Here on Zelan V, he wasn't just the inheritor of wealth and responsibility, but was becoming a part of something greater, a community, a vision, and a new family. The morning was crisp and fresh as John accompanied Mira and Laya to the town nestled between rolling hills and the dense forests of Zelan V. The town square was bustling with activity, its market a vibrant display of alien commerce and social life. "Today's a special day," Mira explained as they walked. "It's the Gathering of Gratitude, a festival where we celebrate the planet's bounty and the cooperation among its inhabitants." John nodded, intrigued by the colorful stalls and the variety of scents wafting through the air. "It smells incredible here." "What's that?" he asked, pointing to a stall where a vendor was frying something that looked both leafy and crispy. "That's gelic leaves. They're a seasonal treat," Laya said, leading the way to the stall. "You must try some." The vendor, a burly man with a wide smile, handed John a sample. "First time at the gathering? You're in for a treat." John tasted the gelic leaf, its flavor a complex mix of sweet and savory that delighted his palate. "That's amazing." As they moved through the market, John was introduced to various merchants and townsfolk. Many were curious about the new human steward of the estate, and John felt warmly welcomed. They reached a stage where musicians were setting up for a performance. Mira pointed out, "They'll play traditional melodies using some instruments unique to our world." Music is a big part of this festival. As the music started, the sound of stringed instruments filled the air, accompanied by wind instruments that looked like nothing John had ever seen. The music was hauntingly beautiful, filling him with a sense of wonder and connection to the culture. After the performance, a local artisan approached John. "You must be John, Grix's friend." "I'm Haler. I work with bioluminescent materials. Would you like to try creating something? It's a tradition here to craft a light orb at the festival." John was delighted. "I'd love to learn." Haler led them to a workshop area filled with materials and tools. He demonstrated how to mold the materials and infuse them with a natural enzyme that would make them glow. John followed suit, fascinated by the craft. "Crafting is a way of leaving a personal mark on our festival," Haler explained as they worked. "Each orb is a light of gratitude. We place them around our homes to remind us of the festival spirit throughout the year." John crafted his orb, feeling a deep sense of participation in something meaningful. Once finished, they placed his glowing orb at the workshop's display, where many others shimmered in various hues. The day progressed with more food, laughter, and sharing of stories. John met more locals, each conversation enriching his understanding of the planet and its people. He was struck by the community's warmth and the ease with which they incorporated him into their traditions. As the festival drew to a close, the townsfolk gathered for the final ceremony. They lit a large central orb, around which everyone placed their smaller orbs, creating a stunning display of light and color. Standing there, surrounded by new friends and illuminated by the glowing orbs, John felt a profound connection to Zelan V. This was no longer just Grix's legacy, but a community he was becoming a part of, a new home where he was not just welcomed but embraced. Mira and Laya stood beside him, their faces lit by the soft glow of the orbs. "It's beautiful," John said. "Not just about the display, but also about the whole experience." "It is," Laia agreed. "And now you're a part of it, too." As they walked back to the vehicle under the starry sky, John felt a sense of fulfillment and excitement for the future. This festival had not only introduced him to the traditions of Zelan V, but had woven him into the fabric of its culture and community. The evening breeze was gentle, stirring the leaves of the towering ferns that lined the pathway leading to the estate's private lake. John, Mira, and Laia had decided to take advantage of the pleasant weather and spend their evening by the water, sharing stories under the soft glow of Zelan V's twin moons. As they walked, John broke the silence. "Today was incredible. I've never felt so welcomed by a community before." Mira smiled, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "It's easy to love this place, and the people make it even easier." Laia, carrying a small basket of local fruits, nodded. "It's a special community. We all support each other. That's what makes it thrive." They reached the lakeside, where the water mirrored the night sky, stars twinkling both above and below. John laid out a blanket, and they all sat down, the basket of fruits between them. "This," John gestured broadly, "all of this feels like a different universe from where I came from." Laia offered him a piece of fruit, its skin tough, but the inside sweet and juicy. "It's not just the place, John. It's the way of life here. Slow, meaningful, and connected. You'll get used to it." John took a bite, enjoying the burst of sweetness. "I think I'm starting to." The conversation turned to lighter topics, favorite foods, hobbies, and the curious habits of some local wildlife. John listened intently as Mira described the dance-like, mating ritual of the lake's amphibious creatures. "Would you like to see it sometime?" Mira asked, her expression playful. "They perform at dawn this time of year. It's quite a sight." "I'd love that," John replied, intrigued. As the evening deepened, John found himself sharing more personal stories, his past on Earth, his dreams, and even his uncertainties about the future. "You're not alone here, John," Laia reassured him gently. "We're here with you, every step of the way." Mira reached out, her hand lightly touching his arm. "Grix knew what he was doing when he chose you. He saw something in you that perhaps you haven't yet seen in yourself." John felt a warmth from her touch, a sense of belonging. "I hope I can live up to that." "You already are," Laia said quietly. The mood was reflective, intimate. John looked at Mira, then at Laia, and felt a profound connection. He leaned closer, his heart beating a little faster. Mira met his gaze, a soft smile playing on her lips. She leaned in, her face inches from his, and their lips met in a gentle kiss that spoke of new beginnings and mutual feelings. Laia watched them for a moment, then smiled softly, reaching out to hold both their hands. The connection felt right, natural. As they pulled back, John felt a rush of emotions. "I didn't expect." "Sometimes," Laia interrupted, her voice gentle, "the best things in life are unexpected." They spent the rest of the evening talking, laughing, and watching the stars reflect in the lake, their bond deepening with each shared moment. By the time they decided to head back, the moons were high in the sky, casting long shadows on the path. They walked back in comfortable silence, each lost in thoughts of the future and what it might bring. As they reached the estate, John felt a contentment he hadn't known in a long time. Here on Zelan V, under its stars and beside its waters, he found a new home and perhaps a new family. With Mira and Laia by his side, the challenges ahead seemed surmountable and the joys all the more sweet. A few weeks had passed since John's arrival on Zelan V. He had settled into his role with confidence and was starting to make plans for the future of the estate when an unexpected message arrived. It was a formal communication from the Planetary Council, and it seemed urgent. John opened the message in his office, with Mira and Laia standing beside him. The digital script on the screen was clear. A challenge had been filed against Grix's decision to leave his estate to a human. Who would challenge this? John looked up at Mira and Laia with a frown. "It's Varlek," Mira said, her voice tense. "He's a distant relative of Grix and has always been ambitious, maybe too much so." Laia added, He believes that the estate should remain in the hands of someone from Grix's species, not a human. John sighed. I suppose I should have expected something like this. You have our full support, Laya reassured him. We'll need to prepare for a council hearing. It's formal, but usually it's just a formality. Mira nodded. We should speak with Haler. He's wise in the ways of our legal system and has served as an advisor in many such hearings. Later that day, John and Mira met with Haler at a local cafe, a quiet place frequented by thinkers and artists. Thank you for meeting us, Haler, John began, shaking the older alien's hand. We need your advice. Haler sipped his drink, his eyes thoughtful. I've heard about the challenge. Varlek has been vocal in his disapproval. However, Grix was very clear in his wishes. Do you have the holographic will? Yes, it was all done officially, John confirmed. That's good, Haler nodded. The council will need to see that. They will also want to hear from you directly. You'll need to demonstrate your intentions and your respect for Grix's legacy. I'm ready to do that, John said firmly. I want to honor Grix, not just in words but in actions. Excellent, Haler smiled. I'll help you prepare your statement. We need to show the council how connected you already are to the estate and the community. The day of the council hearing arrived swiftly. The council chamber was a large, circular room with seats rising up from the floor in tiers. The council members, all from different species of the planet, were seated in a semicircle facing the speaker's platform. John stood at the center, Mira and Laya beside him for moral support, and Haler behind him as his advisor. Across from them, Varlek stood with his own council, a sneer barely concealed on his face. The chief counselor, a dignified figure with shimmering scales, called the room to order. We are here to consider the challenge to the last wishes of Grix. We will hear from both parties. Varlek, you may present your case. Varlek stepped forward, his voice smooth but cold. Esteemed counselors, it is my belief that the stewardship of such a significant estate should not pass to a human. No matter the personal connections, a human cannot fully understand our ways or manage such a heritage responsibly. When it was John's turn, he stepped forward, his voice calm but strong. Counselors, I was chosen by Grix not despite being human but because of it. He believed in bridging our species through understanding and respect. I've embraced your culture, learned your traditions, and committed myself to continuing the projects that Grix held dear. I'm here to honor his memory and his wishes, not to erase them. One by one, John detailed the initiatives he had started, his efforts to integrate into the community, and his plans for the future, which included furthering research and conservation efforts that Grix had valued. When the hearing concluded, the counselors retreated to deliberate. The wait was agonizing, but when they returned, the chief counselor delivered their verdict. After careful consideration, we find no sufficient reason to overturn Grix's decision. John shall retain stewardship of the estate as per the wishes of Grix. Relief washed over John as Varlek stormed out of the chamber. Mira and Laya squeezed his hands, their faces bright with smiles. Thank you, John whispered to them, feeling more than ever that he was exactly where he was meant to be. After the council's verdict, John felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility settle over him. He had won the legal battle to inherit Grix's estate, but now he faced the personal challenge of truly earning the trust and respect of those who still harbored doubts. He knew that action spoke louder than any council decision. The next morning, John met with Haler in the library of the estate, a grand room filled with tomes and data slates documenting the history and science of Zelan V. Haler, I need to do more than just manage this place, John confessed as he paced before the large window overlooking the gardens. I need to make a real difference here. Haler, looking up from a slate he had been studying, nodded in agreement. You're right, John. Winning in the council chamber is one thing, but winning the hearts of the people is another. It's time to show them your commitment. I was thinking about expanding the community programs, John suggested. Perhaps increasing support for the local schools and starting a scholarship fund for students interested in environmental studies. That's a good start, Haler said thoughtfully. Education is highly valued here. But let's also consider something more immediate. How about a festival? A celebration of unity, with exhibitions from our local artists, musicians, and scientists. It could be a symbol of your dedication to both our heritage and our future. John's eyes lit up. That's brilliant, Haler. Let's do it. Let's make it a day to remember. In the following weeks, John and Haler worked closely together, planning the festival. They met with community leaders, artists, and educators, inviting them to participate and share their work. Cale, the engineer, approached John with an idea during one of their planning sessions. John, what if we showcase some of the new hybrid technology we've been developing in the labs? It could be a great way to demonstrate the practical benefits of our research. I like that, John responded enthusiastically. Let's set up a demonstration booth. It'd be great for people to see firsthand how these advancements can improve daily life. As the festival day arrived, the estate was transformed. Colorful banners fluttered in the breeze, stalls and stages were bustling with activity, and the air was filled with the sense of local cuisine and the sounds of laughter and music. John, Mira, and Laya walked through the festival, talking with attendees, listening to feedback, and enjoying the displays of community talent and innovation. At one booth, a local farmer was discussing his use of the new irrigation technology developed at the estate. This has changed the way we farm, he was telling a group of visitors. We can grow more with less water. It's been remarkable. John smiled, pleased to see the tangible impacts of their work. Later, at the main stage, John took a moment to address the crowd. Today is not just a celebration of what we've achieved, but also a vision of what we can achieve together, he began, his voice clear and strong. This estate, this planet, it's our shared home. And every day, we make choices about how we will honor that. The applause was warm and genuine. As the day turned into evening, Haler joined John, watching the festivities. You've done something important today, Haler said quietly. You've started to truly win their hearts. John looked around at the happy faces, feeling a deep connection to this place and its people. With a lot of help from my friends, he replied, glancing at Mira and Laya who were chatting animatedly with some local children. Yes, but it's your vision that brought us here, Haler insisted. And it's your heart that leads us forward. That night, as the festival wound down, John felt a profound sense of belonging and purpose. He was no longer just the man who inherited Grix's estate. He was a member of the community, working alongside them toward a shared future. The success of the festival had woven John even deeper into the fabric of the community on Zelan V. He stood now on the balcony of the estate, looking out over the lands that stretched vibrant and teeming with life under the setting suns of the alien world. Mira joined him, her presence a comforting warmth. You look thoughtful, she remarked, following his gaze across the landscape. I am, John admitted. I'm thinking about all the possibilities ahead. Today marked something significant, not just for me but for all of us here. It was a beautiful day, Mira agreed, leaning against the railing. The community respects you, John. You've shown them your heart. And I have learned so much from them, John reflected. There's still much to do, though. I want to keep pushing forward. Grix left us a great legacy, but it's up to us to build on it. At that moment, Laya and Haler approached, their steps light on the stone tiles. We were just discussing the new community programs, Laya started, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. There's a lot of interest in the environmental studies scholarships, and the tech demos we had at the festival are getting serious traction, Haler added. We could be looking at implementing some of those systems planet-wide. John nodded, pleased. That's exactly what we should aim for. Growth, learning, improvement. But let's make sure we keep everyone's needs in mind. Of course, Haler agreed. It's about balance. We advance, but not at the cost of our principles or our way of life. As they talked, ideas began to form, plans started to take shape, and the future seemed bright with promise. John felt a sense of duty, but also of excitement for what they could accomplish together. Turning to his friends, he suggested, let's organize a meeting with the community leaders and the heads of the research teams. It's time we sketch out our next steps. This is just the beginning, after all. An excellent idea, Haler responded with a nod. I'll arrange it for the end of the week. We'll need everyone's input if we're to succeed. And I'll talk to the educators and cultural leaders, Laya added. They should be involved from the start. As they dispersed to carry out their tasks, John lingered on the balcony, watching as the first stars of the evening began to appear in the twilight sky. Mira returned to his side, her hand slipping into his. "You're doing well, John. Grix would be proud." "I hope so," John murmured, squeezing her hand gently. "I just want to do right by him and by this planet." "You will," Mira reassured him. "You already are." Together, they watched the night deepen, the dual moons casting a serene glow over the land. The challenges ahead were many, but John felt ready to meet them, supported by the bonds of friendship and a shared vision for the future. A human inherited wealth and 2 beautiful wives from his alien friend, John mused aloud, reflecting on the title of his unexpected life story. With a reflective smile, he added, "And perhaps a chance to make a real difference." Mira laughed softly, her voice blending harmoniously with the whispers of the night wind. Indeed, a very fitting title for a remarkable journey. As the evening fell into a peaceful silence, John felt a deep connection not only to Mira and Laia, but to the entire world of Zelan V. This was his home now, and together, they would continue to build a future filled with hope, understanding, and endless possibilities.